right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tori, and we are the Data Pack, and we looked at disparities in disciplinary actions, and we have Texas versus California. So, are the differences in disciplinary actions taken by officers? So we adopted a mixed method approach, wanting to look at the data made available to us. And we used Tableau to facilitate visualizations and Excel to run different quick analysis on the differences of the observed outcomes. So ideally, we would pair our findings with the rigorous qualitative research, and we chose to create a protocol for a Delphi panel that would elucidate on expert and academic consensus on the subject. And our research questions were, how does the proportion of citations and warnings vary between race and states? Do the proportions vary by race and gender? And what are the leading theories by experts for these differences?
Okay, on our second slide, we're looking at the volume of stops that vary by the day based off of California and Texas data. For California, I looked into the 2019 data report for racial disparities in traffic stops. There was a notation that stated that traffic stops peaked during the hours of 9 p.m. and 3 a.m. and that law enforcement often confiscated firearms in most of the stops, at least 905 of them. 47% of them took place between the hours of 9 p.m. and 3 a.m. and 51% were non-moving violations. As you see here, 76% for California, there was no enforcement or no discovery during the traffic stop. It most likely was a verbal communication, but there were thousands of incidents where there may have been intrusive or excessive force used during the stop. And it showed as well that Black and Latino drivers were represented in the stops involving intrusive actions. Another thing I just wanted to note that this data came from 2019 RIPA data, and it showed that even though these discoveries happened late in the evening or early in the morning, most of the searches for the morning were came up empty as far as they weren't able to find contraband or anything of the sort. And about 6% of those traffic stops, there was, out of those, it was 6% of traffic stops that was no enforcement or discovery. For Texas, I looked into the March 2000 and July 2000 information based off of the Texas Public Safety Report. And here it showed us that individuals, white individuals were most likely the ones stopped. They have a vast majority of the population in Texas. Hispanic persons were 19.78% of the ratio compared to their counterparts. Black individuals made up about 9.66%. And for Texas, let's see, the most recent information that we had is this information, give me one second. These statistics closely related to the estimated population of Texas. So they reflect the population as a whole, whether it was white, Hispanic, or Black individuals. Next slide, please. Okay. This data from California, the first chart, table 1, has the representation for white, Latino, Black, and Asian population. Racial and identity profiling report also showed that there was 15,000 incidents in which officers reported handcuffing the individual without any further enforcement or discovery. And about half of those stops were for non-moving violations made by at least 8 police departments. In Texas, the troopers, most of their stops, like 99% of their stops, they are gonna write a written warning. And then of course, there's only 1% in extreme cases in which there may have been a medical issue where there was a verbal warning and it wasn't recorded.
Awesome. So, well, Derek was actually going to present these slides, but he had to drop off because of another commitment, so I'll take over these. So we wanted to answer the question quickly. So we plotted just simply the proportions of stops leading to a citation or warning, since those were the only 2 types of outcomes that we had from the data that was supplied to us in California and Texas that was consistent. And off the bat, there's the obvious difference that, in California, there's a lot more warnings happening versus citations. And while the racial differences in California don't seem immediately huge, as the proportion of citations to warnings across Black and Hispanic and white persons stopped, Hispanics do tend to receive a higher amount of citations. And I'll gonna break this down a little bit more. So we thought that maybe gender might have a mitigating or extenuating effect onto if people get a citation or a warning during a stop. So we decided to break it down by race and gender here. And we can see that one of the things that's leading the Hispanic citations versus warnings is that it's mostly males that are being issued citations here. Interestingly, some of the things we wanted to do, if these are actually disparities or done through random chance. And so we did a t-test to compare the means. For example, the means, the counts of Black men compared to white men who are issued citations to see if it's, we find that it is highly statistically significant in Texas and California, which suggests that, the disparity in disciplinary actions in Texas lies outside of chance. I'm sorry, that was just for Texas. Looking at California, we only compared Hispanic and white persons that were stopped. And here we see that Hispanics are 1.7 times more likely than white males to get a citation versus a warning. For Texas, we compared it for people who are Black males who were stopped and got a citation versus a warning, and they are 1.4 times more likely than white males to get a citation rather than a warning. All right, and we didn't have time. We would have liked to interview a lot of people to elicit expert opinions. And what we did do, though, is come up with a sort of protocol is like what we would do. We adapted it from some of the literature we saw around the method around the Delphi panel. So we would first stage one would be to identify the candidates and features that are relevant to our study. Next, we would find a representative set of questions, do a first round interview, leading to a second round interview where we would re-rate items if there was no consensus among experts, or try to find where if there was something else that we were missing, or if there was a consensus to get a priority ranking of these items and issues, so we can get a consensus. Where stage 5 would be we consolidate and synthesize the expert opinions. One of the last things we did is we also wanted to look at this across time with the data that we had. So here in California, we have just simply the number of citations that happen. Since this was more the more disciplinary act, and we didn't see a huge trend. We did notice that at least when we subset it into when we subset the data into just citations and warnings, it looks like Black people that are stopped their sample size gets a lot smaller. So we could have gotten a more robust analysis by looking at other types of outcomes. Like I said, our initial choice to subset it like this was to compare it with Texas. And with Texas, we have here, the only really interesting thing is the kick up in Hispanic citations after 2015, and sort of the drop in white citations throughout the entire series. But that is something we would have liked to explore a little bit more, but we didn't have a chance to get. And that actually concludes our presentation. I think we're at 8-ish.